with school lunch. Now I spit a 16 straight with no punch. Remember?
Hey, what's happening, everyone? It's Norm. Hope everyone's doing great. Wanted to bring you today a really fun podcast with a great conversation with the guy who's become a good friend and someone I really respect and look up to. My boy Noel out there in the Philippines. He's a hell of an entrepreneur. He's a visionary. He's a brand guru. He's worked at some of the top advertising agencies all the way from Canada to the Philippines and has some really great insights for us today on branding, entrepreneurship, opportunities, and staying true to yourself. So without further ado, everyone enjoy. Take care.
Yeah.
Which is sort of like, you're sort of like Joe Rogan. I'm sort of like Kevin Hart when you think about it. But
what are you talking about? I'm shorter. I'm darker. Maybe when you were
funnier, though. I'm funnier, you know. But
you are funnier. Okay, I'm Joe Rogan.
But they were talking about, Kevin Hart was talking about just the social media and being connected to your damn phone 24/7. And he's talking about, you know, it's a curse and a blessing. But he goes, the best thing to do is just put the phone away. Don't even turn it off. Don't even not pick it up. When you're with your family, when you decide it's dinner time to shut down for the night, put that damn thing away. And you have to train yourself to do that because that thing is so addicting, you know. But as an entrepreneur and as a creative, you have to unplug sometimes, right?
I think we definitely do. I mean, maybe it's also, no, maybe it is the same thing. I saw that interview.
Okay.
I'm like, well, it's also you're at that level, so you're able to you can risk putting that phone down and missing some sort of deal.
Yeah.
But when we're doing ours, we're still grinding, we're still hustling, we're still building the corporation. Yeah. So every minute does count. But you're right. Like, you know, we find that we, you know, try to do movie night and sit down and let's watch a movie and if she sees me on the phone, like she'll even call me out, put your phone down when we're watching a movie. That is the rule now, is put your phone down. We can't even look at it when we're watching a movie, right? So
it helps, but it's balance. And that's the hard part for people like us and Amy and entrepreneurs. It's like you want to work every single minute of every day to push. But it's
also we also love what we do. That's why. So that's why you're constantly doing it. It's not work for us, right? And that's the beauty of it is I'm addicted to trading.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like, I'll be completely spent from working, you know, 7 days a week. And maybe I have a Sunday afternoon off and I'm sitting there. Then I just start twiddling my thumbs. I'm like, let me write something. Let me read something. Let me find something. Let me look, you know, at art or whatever. Because like you said, it's what inspires us, you know?
You're always thinking. And again, it progresses your company or your business. But I think more times than not, we just enjoy. Like Amy can relax after a client, but she actually doesn't work out because she enjoys it.
Yeah,
you know, she'll do TikTok or whatever because she enjoys it, right? But it just happens that it also helps her business, right?
Yeah, and she gets to exercise while she's doing business, right? My fat ass is sitting in a chair. I have to the best thing I could do is I get up and I just go do like a break of one round of exercises. I have the setup in the basement. I have the heavy punching bag in the garage. My mom,
I saw that.
I'm loving it. And I spent the money to get a good one, so it's like really solid. And so that helps me not only like to exercise, but just get some energy, get the blood flowing, you know?
See, mine is ruined because I enjoy weights. I like going in and lifting heavy or whatever. And if it shows results, that's great. But I actually love, and I used to go to, you know, obviously, hopefully it works out, but I go to Gold's Gym and that's my routine. You know what I mean? I'll have my phone and, you know, people do text me, but I don't reply right away. But I love the feeling of the clanging of the weights, and that's my turn. I turn off. Like that's actually, I get all the aggression. I can't do it. Like even, you know, Amy has the whole boxing gym and I have all the kettlebells, but it's not the same. Yeah. So I find now during the quarantine, I've been just not doing really anything because it's not motivating for me. I need to go into a place, put my headphones on, and then, you know, I'm doing shoulders, I'm doing back today. And that's a routine of mine. And again, it's not to become, you know, huge or whatever. I just enjoy it. So I kind of miss that. I mean, I told Amy, I want to sneak into Gold's Gym and just work out. I just want one workout. And that's what I'm going to do. When they open up everything, the first thing I'm going to is the gym. And unfortunately, that's going to remain closed during the GCQ. So I don't know how long that's going to last.
You know, my
Yeah,
buddy in
man.
Thailand,
But that's my outlet. That's my outlet.
yeah, yeah. My buddy in Thailand, like, he's a big meathead. He used to be a Marine. He used to be a New York City police officer. So he's massive, right? And he just loves lifting. Same thing, like, you know, they shut down all the gyms there. So he actually went out and spent a couple of grand and bought, you know, like all the nice squat rack. Like, he bought really good equipment that'll last him for 20 years.
Yeah.
Put it in his
I'm
house.
super tempted to do that. Yeah, because we have a fourth floor that I can easily put some stuff in there, and then we also have like a balcony on the fourth floor, which is
Yeah, I was about to say the
pretty big.
patio. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have the patio.
Yeah.
I can easily like put the weights up there, put a little like, you know, retractable umbrella, whatever, and do the weights there. But then I know I'm like, really, when they open up again, I'm back. And again, it's also getting out of the house.
Yeah.
It's the ride to the gym, getting dressed, putting my headphones, picking the playlist, seeing the people around me working out. I feed off that energy. When I see somebody working their asses off, it's just like, wow, like that. Yeah. Then I'm in the zone now. I do my pre-workout, boom, I'm out. Here it's, I don't know. Like I said, it's different. And even Amy even says it's kind of hard because she misses Team Insider when she boxes and she trains with Coach Marcelo, and you know how, you know, you saw her Instagram story. So yeah, I mean, those are the changes that I don't like. So I'm looking forward to that if they open it up and when. So
yeah, and it's, I mean, the one thing we talked about early on, even when we had a conversation a few weeks ago, is like everything has changed. And it's like you could either, there's a lot of people in the US, the vast majority, that are still like, okay, when, you know, looking at their watches, when is this going back to normal? When could I go do everything? Okay, this inconvenience is done. And then they think, oh, it's an economic problem. And I'm like, no, our world has changed. And you need to wrap your head around that. And there's still amazing opportunity, like we talked about.
Yeah.
It's shifting that mindset and saying, okay, what are the new needs? What are the new challenges? Who's my new tribe? You know, where do I fit in? What do I want to build in this new world? So you're doing a lot, of course, with the Refined and Maven, but you've had to shift like everyone else. So talk a little bit, if you would, about your shift.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we shifted. I mean, the Maven hasn't changed too much because that was always about self-love. Yeah. It was we call it a co-caring space for women. So that was really touching on, you know, bettering the inner and the outer for women, right? Having, you know, we'll have the spa and the blowouts and the hair salons, but we're really focusing on, you know, doing workshops and events that are the inner peace and building the confidence and you know, obviously using the word empowered and finding the inner strength, right? Because that's, you know, that's something that women love. I mean, they're a force to be reckoned with, right? They're the newest CEOs coming out there. Yeah. So they're already empowered. What they need is self-love and co-caring and taking time to, okay, I got to breathe. I'm a mom. I'm a CEO. You know, I got to do, now it's time to take time for myself, and they accept that and they want that. So we're giving them that for the Maven. So that hasn't really changed. For the guys though, I think that's the shift that we're really looking at is what is the essence of the Refine? And you being a member, right? I watched it for 2 years while we're open. I think in the first when we first came out of the Refine, not knowing what the tagline is, but something like the value proposition was something like we help you better yourselves. Like we always say we turn man into gentleman kind of thing. So bettering oneself, right? That's changed now. And because the change is not really based off the quarantine, maybe it has maybe something to do with it, or it confirmed the direction where the Refine's going. But what it's about is community, right? Yeah. And that's what it is. But the 2 years being there and witnessing every day interactions with members and how they interact with other members and how those members interact with our staff or our team, that allowed us to, you know, take a step back during this quarantine and say, you know what, our value proposition is incorrect, right? Because you can always go to another place to get a nice haircut.
Yeah.
Right. I still think we have the best haircut, and I think a lot of people can,
Shout
that's
out to
me being
Jason.
biased, but Jason, Ricky, and Marcel, right? So they're amazing, and they've been trained, and we don't get complaints of our haircuts, and we love it. But it's not about that. We realize that's not about it. And I've actually talked to a lot of during the quarantine, I personally called members. And I'm still going through the long list of members and having one-on-one conversations on the phone with them. And right across the board, it confirmed what the new value proposition is, which is creating authentic connections. That's what we do. So you can look at that, creating authentic connections two ways. The first way, we create an authentic connection with you. As soon as you walk through the door, we say, hi, Norm. We don't say, hi, ma'am, sir, or whatever. We call you by your first name. We know your first name. If you're new, we'll ask you what your name is and we'll introduce ourselves. And then from that moment, we're going to call you by your first name.
Yeah.
And so we listen to you, and so we're creating this actually authentic connection. So when we do the service, we ask how you want your haircut. We go through the steps, we take care of you. We give you the coffee exactly how you want it or how your drink, so on and so forth. We actually create this authentic connection. So we got that covered. The other part that's actually grew organically every day, and it's really big right now, is we're creating this community of gentlemen, this network. So we're actually introducing people to other members, and we're creating this authentic connection with other members.
Yep.
So instead of going on Facebook, hey, looking for someone who can do chatbots, and then someone like Jordan will go on, oh, I can do it. That's not authentic. That's a digital connection.
It's transactional.
It's cold. It's not real.
Transactional.
Yeah, it's transactional. But when I say, hey, Norm, you got to talk to you're looking for chat or someone, oh, you know what? I think you and Jordan should talk. We've now created this authentic connection within you guys. And now you guys are actually doing stuff together. That's what we do at the Refine. That's like one of 100 cases that happens at the Refine. Like I have another project I'm working on with 4 other members, and they're all Refine members. And other people have said, hey, do you know a lawyer? I've introduced him another lawyer that's a member, and I created that authentic connection. That's what we're doing now. So we're creating this authentic connection at the Refine, and we're actually going to be really ramping that up. Like, as you know, we're launching the LinkedIn private group. So now that private group is going to be members only in this thing. So you can communicate, you can actually post your business to other Refine members and vice versa. Obviously not try to spam it, but, but really let the group grow organically. When I was setting it up, LinkedIn will say, what are the group rules? I'm like, there's no rules right now. Like, I'm not, who am I to make that rule? What should I say? Don't send porn. Like that, maybe that's the only one I can do, but it has to grow organically. And our members have to create that group by organically throughout, communication. So that's one part of it. Another thing we're setting up actually is an actual business directory for Refine members only. So if I'm looking for human resources, I type in the Refine business directory, human resources, then it'll show up which of our members has a company or works for a company for human resources. Now that person can reach out to that member and says, hey, I found your name at the Refine membership. I'm one of the members. Right there, authentic connections, boom. Now it's like a fraternity. There's a vested interest to make sure that this person's taken care of. If they want to give them a 10% discount, they can because of being part of that. But the authenticness is everyone in this business directory has to be a member, right? It's not like invite your friends or, hey, let's post. No, it's going to be a small, intimate, but when we start growing to other locations, and that's how I'm seeing it, other branches, even globally, that's when that business directory becomes extremely valuable. So that is the cost of the membership. It's not just the haircut. It's the authentic connections that you get with other people and networking. And networking is, I think, more valuable than money.
Everything.
Right?
It's
everything.
I always think now, and like, I grew up, of course, pre-internet, went to college. I think it was just word processors like early 90s, right? But I think if I actually just kept in touch with people,
Oh my God.
I don't know, it was a little
Yeah.
address book at that time. And then, later on, social media came, and we found people a lot. But that's the best thing you could do in any business is network, And with what you're doing with the Refined, I am and was a member, and I absolutely loved it coming in for the reasons you said. I didn't go in for a haircut. I got my haircut there, but I could have gotten that somewhere else, right? They did an amazing job. I didn't come in for the coffee. So what did I come in for? I came in to be a part of something with like-minded people and to have that connection, right?
Yeah.
And everyone there was just so damn nice and genuine. And I'm a scrub, my wearing a suit days and trying to look nice are long gone. So, I'd come into my goofy basketball shirts and be way underdressed, but you and everyone was always so cool. So that was really amazing, that vibe. And the connection with you, with Jordan, with the people I met, it's 100%, like you said, there's so much value in that. The other thing I'll say is when you have all these people and they're all putting their best foot forward with business, with you're grooming them, you're teaching them how to be a gentleman, you're encouraging that. It makes you level up. It makes you up your game. It makes you say, hey, what's that guy got going on? What is he doing? What could I do better? And so that's really important too for personal development, I think. So you're hitting it on all fronts with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so. I think, like I said, the power of the quarantine allowed us to take a step back because we were too deep into it and all the things that we're doing with the expansion and moving and all that stuff that we had to take a step back and say, wow, okay, we're missing the target. And it's because the target was wrong. And I think in the beginning, it's fine. I think that target of bettering yourself, that was okay in the beginning, right? Because we were also fighting, people thinking that we're like another place that had hair cutting because there's so many barbershops. So everyone called us a barbershop. Once you come in there, you find out we're not a barbershop, but we're more than a barbershop, like you said. And I think that's consistent with all the members I've talked to. And I know their thoughts were, it's not just a haircut, man. Like, the haircut was nice, but it was the other hour that I spent after my haircut. And I'm like, that's amazing that you stayed an extra hour after your haircut. Like, try to do that anywhere else at a barbershop and stay another hour. That's not going to happen. Especially the smaller barbershops that want you out.
Yeah, or just come in and hang out for absolutely no reason, and with no haircut, no agenda, And it helps.
Turn on your.
Helps that you had good Wi-Fi.
Or if you need to, you have the headphones. You put the headphones on. You put your laptop on. You can work. And I always said that the reason why we built it that way is because I was sick and tired of going to Starbucks to do meetings and to work as a freelancer or as an entrepreneur. That was the only place I can go. Like, again, no knock on Starbucks. I think their customer service is friggin' amazing. But going there, it's so loud. And before it was really business-like, but now it's full of kids, young babies, kids, toddlers walking around, crying up. You know what I mean?
Everyone is pretty packed.
Everyone's there, and that's where everyone meets. And that's what the thing is, the Philippines too. It's so family-oriented. So everyone and their uncles are sitting together on three tables put together. You know what I mean? Impromptu, and having a family get together. But for entrepreneurs, when money is tight, those are the places that we'll spend our $5 and milk that coffee for about 3 hours, get free internet and get my shit done. So what we did is basically the same thing. Like, we just created that space. So, that's what the Refine is. It's just, it was a selfish, move on my part to create something that I needed. Yeah. And I knew I wasn't the only one. I know I'm not the only entrepreneur that did that same routine. So, like I said, I see the people on a regular basis who come in, they're not even getting their haircut. They'll come in with their laptop, log in, and that's it. And then they're off to the races, and they'll get a refill on their free coffee, and that's it. They don't even have to pay for their coffee. And so they're there working.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head where you saw the need because that's where you would want to go and spend your money and spend your time and work and network. And so, the other entrepreneurs, the young money, the people who are coming up and trying to better themselves, they're doing the same thing. in Silicon Valley, they have a term incubator, right? And it's like basically a breeding ground for ideas, for energy, for business, for networking, for resources, for growth. And really that's, the Refined is really the incubator of Manila.
Yeah, because energy is contagious, right? Good and bad. So if you create this good energy, it actually fuels you more than your coffee. It actually gets you going. When I'm surrounded by like-minded individuals and they're kicking ass, it's like I'm stepping up my game, right? So I got to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like, I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know who does it. I mean, some people might not, but I know for me, I love it. But the one thing why I gravitate to him, because he says things that I'm thinking and I actually always want to do, but I can verbalize it. But the one thing that that resonates in my brain every time he says it is, I want everyone to win. So that entrepreneur that came into the Refined to work on a small budget because they need coffee and they want to work on this whatever thing, or they're asking for, say, my POV on something, I'm really authentically giving that to them because I want them to win. I want them to succeed. I want them to hit it big. And just like I want to hit it big, I want you to hit it big. I think that's what is created at the Refine, is that brotherhood that we've created, that we all want each other to win. You know what I mean? And I've noticed that, man. I've noticed that people will give somebody a chance in their business. Okay, let me try you out for a bit. And it ends up working out. And it's like, wow, thank you for saving, my HR problems.
And you just happens because they got introduced. You're the center of all the spokes on the wheel. You're the mentor to a lot of these younger guys, or you're like the chief resource for a lot of people. So you're really the center of all that and helping those people grow. And of course you're in Manila, Philippines now. But let's talk a little about your backstory. Yeah. Right? You're not from where are you from?
I am from Toronto, Canada. Yes, the 6.
The T-Dot.
Yes, Toronto Raptors. I should have worn my Raptors hat. I did not wear it. No, it's not T-Dot anymore. That's for like the old people. It's the 6. Okay. But the T-Dot, the funny is I'm actually old, so I'm 49, so I do call it the T-Dot, and I get corrected by my young kids.
Was that Cardinal Official, right? One of the first Raptors.
Oh my God. Yeah. Back in the day with Jacques Claire, Maestro Fresh West, big ups to him. But yeah, that was, but Toronto, yeah, that's my home. I think that's part of my motivation, is to get back, not necessarily living there 100%, but really balancing life in the Philippines and in Toronto, and hopefully able to open up things that I've done here and transition it over there so I can live the best both worlds of here and there. But yeah, that's where everything I learned, everything that I'm doing now is really from Toronto and me working as an art director.
Yeah, tell me about
man, Toronto is home.
You came up as an art director, and you have a creative background, and you worked for some really, really impressive firms. And I went down the list of the brands or the campaigns you worked on. It's pretty incredible. So tell us a little about how you got in that business and your experience.
I got in there from high school. I hated school, man. I love school. High school for sports. So I was a big volleyball player. Okay. I was a setter, and I think 1 year I was a captain, blah, blah, blah. But that's why that got me going to school, was volleyball practice and volleyball tournaments and all that at Pope John Paul in Scarborough. But what happened was, I'm not sure if it's grade 12 or 13. I think 12, you have to do co-op, or you have an option to do co-op. And our guidance counselor was saying, I was like, I don't know what I want to do, but because why don't you do co-op, so at least you can get a feel of what you want to do. And at first I wanted to be an architect, but then there's something, my dad's an architect. I'm like, man, I don't want to follow my dad's footsteps. Like that's, and there's so much math involved. So I don't know why, but the guidance counselor says, well, why don't you do advertising? I don't know, because of architect and advertising, he saw it as, hey, do it, it's drawing. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So in Toronto, and I worked in the accounts department. So I was helping somebody in account management, which I'm so not. But one day during lunch, I kind of wandered into the creative department, which I didn't know what that was. Yeah. It was under lock and key. I followed somebody through it, and they punched in the code. I just followed right behind them. They didn't say anything. And I saw all these sketches on the wall, and these storyboards, which I didn't know were storyboards at the time. And I saw markers everywhere. And I'm like, what is this? And so the creative department. And I happened to, actually, I remember the guy's name, the senior art director, Alvin Letchford. And I don't know if he's still alive because this was many years ago. Basically asked for a transfer from our co-op teacher and said, I want to go into the creative department. And that's where it was. And I was the mentee, the mentee of Alvin Letchford for a while, and learned how advertising was done. And I worked in the studio, and that's how it all started. And then after that, I went to a school called Ontario College of Art and Design, which is still there, and learned how to, it was a 4-year program to be an art director in advertising. And that was amazing because our instructors were still, at the time, I heard it's changed quite a bit, but back in the day, it was, our instructors were still in the industry, winning awards and kicking ass. So we were learning from the best. So we would have learned from how to concept and brainstorm and strategize and so on and so forth. So it started there, got a job, and off to the races. So I did that for 20 years. Advertising. So it started as like a junior art director to an art director to intermediate art director to a senior, then group head, then as associate creative director to creative director, and then within the 20 years. So it was many.
The one I actually studied advertising in communication sciences in college too, except ours was like ridiculously, I had all the football players and basketball players in my classes. So we learned this much about true advertising, but I love it too. And, I'm in marketing as well, but the one name I know is Ogilvy, and you actually worked for Ogilvy, the firm in Canada, correct?
Yeah, I did. I was actually it was the Ogilvy One, which was more of a direct marketing arm of it. So I worked there only for really a year. But I'll be honest with you, I was already at that point in my career, and I can't remember what year it was. If I was already in my 13th year or something like that. Something like that. I can't remember what year it was, but I was already tired of advertising, to be honest with you. I think it was 2011. I was already burnt out.
Yeah.
I was already getting burnt out. I remember I was getting a really, really, really solid paycheck from that because I was a group head. And I wasn't happy, bro. I wasn't happy at all. The money was great, but it wasn't, something was missing. Like, I don't know what it was. And I can still remember sitting in my office late at night working on like an ad, like I think it was American. I'm like, well, I'm getting paid all this money. Let me stay here. Like, it's good. I was married at the time, so it was bringing in, a really good paycheck to allow us to do the things that we wanted to do. But I'll be honest, man, it was killing me, and it's not the hours, but just not doing what I wanted to do in life. But yet the hard part was I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. Like I already opened up Mankind, which was the first, men's grooming salon in Toronto. So that was already open, but I didn't know. And then at that point, I already sold my shares, and I wanted to get into I thought I wanted to be more in advertising, and I was burnt out near the last 5 years. That was probably the roughest for me.
Yeah.
But I never knew, but that rough time was actually that prepared me to what I'm doing right now. So it was a launch pad. So I had to kind of hit rock bottom in a sense.
Yeah. And I think that process is actually common for a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, artists, creative people that are trying to do something different in life. Because you almost, at first you need to establish yourself, you need to learn, you need to make money, you try to rise up a little bit. And then at a certain point, you're like, all right, but is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Is this my purpose? Is this my passion? Is this what I'm on this planet for? And there's a lot of soul searching. There's hitting rock bottom. There's, you almost need to do what you don't want to do first, so you know what you don't want, and then you find your path. So I think that existential crisis that a lot of entrepreneurs go through, I think that's actually a healthy part of the process.
Yeah, and there's no shortcut. That's the thing. I mean, if anybody asks me, if you're trying to find a shortcut, you're not going to find it. I mean, I had to go through all those trials and tribulations and obstacles and a divorce, during that, and just trying to find out who I was. And just everything. It it's something, I don't know what it was, but something fun. Actually, what it was, I was dating somebody at the time, playing Tinder and all that stuff because I was single at that point.
Mhm.
And she told me to watch this movie on Netflix called The Secret.
Yeah.
And I had no, I'm like, what are you, I thought it was a romantic comedy, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. I didn't know what it was, or some sort of love story. I watched it, and it's super long. If I remember, it was super long, but it was like, it woke me up.
Yeah.
I don't believe truly in The Secret. Like, put it out there, envision yourself driving a Porsche, and before
It's
you know
not
it,
a
you'll have a
magic
Porsche.
trick. Yeah, it's not a magic trick.
No, no, it's not that. But it is about, it's, if you want something, if you can visualize it, you can materialize it. But what they forget to tell you is you got to work your fucking ass off during the visualizing and the materializing aspect of it. That's why a lot of other books and other gurus out there are really are pushing that part. But it was a nice launch pad for me to wake up and say, I can be whatever I want to be at this moment. It's just trying to figure out what I want to be at that moment, and then it started.
You got a visitor in the background.
Oh, you can see it in the mirror. She's so embarrassed. She thought she was all cool and shit.
Busted.
She thought, oh, no one can see.
Give us a little 1-2. Boom,
Oh,
boom.
It's already tethered. It's tethered already.
Oh my God.
Yeah, our internet is down in our village, so she's tethering. That's why she's here. She's tethering so she can do some social media stuff. So she has to work. She has to work. But yeah. So I was going back. I think that was the turning point when I watched The Secret. Again, don't believe in it, but it allowed me to say, oh, that can.
Well, it's one. I think I'm with you on that. At the time, it was revolutionary, right? Because people were talking about things like this, and self-help at the time was like, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale and maybe a little bit of Tony Robbins, right? But it's basically what we focus on, and a lot of people are focusing on their problem, and they're thinking about their poverty, and that's why they get poverty, and But the biggest part of that equation, of course, is action, like you said. So I think The Secret was. But it also evolved and fleshed out over time. So after you had that monumental life change, when did you actually make it over to the Philippines? When did that come in play?
It really started 4 years, like 4 years from today. So what it was, I was freelancing at the time. So now I was at this point that, okay, I'll just freelance in advertising, take gigs wherever I can take it. And freelance actually paid pretty well. So whenever I can get a job, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I was happy at that point, and this is another story, but I was actually living on my best friend's couch with my suitcase on the left side. So that was part of the growth of who I am today, and realizing, I've hit rock bottom, but wow, this is the best feeling I've ever had. This freedom. But what happened was, my brother-in-law from the Philippines asked me he was in Toronto at the time, asked me to play golf, which I love golf.
Okay.
So I said, sure, let's play golf. So we went. So I thought it was actually a day of just playing golf, and I loved it. Went out, and then I quickly realized it was an interview, in a sense of, what was your involvement at this place called Mankind? So Mankind, like I said, was the first men's grooming salon in Toronto. When I opened it up, there was no competition, zero competition. You fast forward now, there's over 30 copycats of the same thing. And that's not a bad thing. It grew, right? Because the popularity of us inspired other people to do the same, which is amazing. So they started growing that. But at the time, he asked me what's my involvement. I said, well, I'm no longer part of it. But what did you do with it? I'm like, well, I'm one of the co-founders. I'm the one who actually created it, brought in a partner who was a hairstylist, and we opened up together. He goes, you need to go to the Philippines. And at the time, Philippines to me was a place to party.
Yeah.
So I used to go back quite a bit, because my grandmother, when she was still alive, I would bring her there. I would stay for a month, and then I go back to Toronto and, go back to normal life. But I would party there. So that's all I knew of the Philippines. So when he said, go back to the Philippines and open up this Mankind, I'm like, what are you talking? Like, why? So he goes, you need to just go there. So because I was a freelancer, I had all the time in the world. So I took 2 months, I think 2 months later, I did an ocular. I flew out to the Philippines, did an ocular, looked around, and realized there's this energy in the Philippines that I can't even explain what it is. And I
This
think
was
a lot
around
of
2000.
foreigners and people from the Philippines.
This,
Yeah, 2000, like 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago. So yeah, I realized there's something here. So I'm like, I have to make a decision. All right. So, it was a tough decision because I have two stepkids or two kids that I had to sacrifice going there. And but the plan was only to be there for 3 months because I was still a group head at an agency that I took as a freelance. And they asked me to stay longer. So I've been doing it and it paid really well. So it was supposed to be a 3-month gig that turned 3 years later, continued because there's so much opportunity here. So yeah, that's how I found myself here. The ones who've gone through the same thing from the States or from Toronto or from anywhere in Europe, we call the Philippines the black hole.
yeah.
Because once you're in here, like if you think you're going to only be here for 2 months, check again. You're going to be here a long time. And it's not because it's just all fun and games. It's actually a lot of hard work, but there's a lot of opportunities to really launch whatever idea you have. You can actually launch it here. And actually, it's a good testing ground also because it is a hard market to break because there's a certain buying habit of the Filipino, which is you can't compare it to anywhere else. Like it's so different from the States or North America. So if you think you're going to come here and think they have the same buying habits, it's not going to happen. Like you're going to fail right away. So I feel it's harder here, right? So if you can do well here, you can actually expand and transition to other places globally if you really wanted to for your business.
And it's interesting, you talked about how things are different in the Philippines, and sometimes when people first go over there, at first glance, they think it's westernized, Americanized, North Americanized because of English, because of the music, because of sports, because, the dress or whatever. But then the longer you're there, you realize that it's very complex, right? There's a lot of layers to their culture. And the very subtle things you learn, which are completely different. So when you talk about the market being a little different, it's also interesting. We talk about this, how once you could get started there and once you could actually have a product or a service and get rolling, there's less filters with the consumers there. In the US, for instance, what I'm trying to say is they've had, 60 years, 2-3 generations of TV and radio advertising. And we build up these filters. So, we don't Joe Camden on this and that, and, through the years, and, we basically filter out marketing messages a lot more efficiently, and our brains do it automatically. When we see a billboard, we don't even recognize it, right? In the Philippines, people, when they see things, they believe it. So you could sell a magic pill that makes you 4 inches taller, and I see these corny, stupid ads, and people are like, "Oh my God!" Or this sugar posing as coffee cures cancer. People are like, "Oh my God!" and they buy it. So it's harder to break in. But talk a little about what you've seen about that. You'll be more eloquent than I just was, I'm sure.
No, that's pretty good. But I always thought that pill to make you 4 inches taller works. So I'm one of those people that fell for that one. No. It's just the buying habits. Like even with, at the Refine, like we know for sure we open up the Refine in Toronto or in North America, and trust me, we've been asked to go to LA and New York. I think it was another place, and some parts of LA, certain places of LA, they want it. We know for sure it'll explode. Like every single foreigner from the States or Europe that come to the first time that Refine, they love it because they understand what the whole community and networking and that whole, just that energy that that we're trying to have at the Refine.
Yeah.
But I think in the Philippines, it's so new. It's really new. Like networking, they do networking, but I think networking is a little bit different here. Networking here at times is networking because you're from a rich family. So your rich family knows another rich family and so on and so forth. But someone who's either lower class or middle class, that networking is now a lot harder because you don't have that direct connection to, the president of Ayala, right? Or an airlines or Globe or whatever. So there's a lot of hard work and sometimes there's not even an option to network. It's changing now, but I think that's the networking aspect is changing. That's, I think hopefully we're one of the pioneers to bring that there. But I think that's what's different is that our market, creating authentic connections is going to be new to the Philippines, because they'll see it as, oh, you're just a barbershop. Oh, you're just a co-working space, which we're not even close to co-working, but they'll try to put you in something to understand it. They pigeonhole you all the time, like, oh, you fit in this, and this is what you are. No, we're not. Oh, what are you then? Oh, well, we're this, right? But in the States, that's okay, right? Or in Toronto. So that's, the buying power is a little bit different of having them to look at it and says, you know what, that value of that is amazing. I see the value of playing for subscription. Even the word subscription is so new in the Philippines. I mean, I think the ones that are popularizing it now is gyms, like Anytime Fitness, right? Because now they've come out and they've exploded. I don't know how it is going to be after post-corona, but they Filipinos are now really, wow, okay, the subscription, I get it, pay monthly and I do this, right? But with us, it's like, you've never really heard that you pay a subscription for a haircut, an unlimited haircut, or a spa or coffee. So that is different. So that, because they're not used to it, and that's where the buying habit comes from, is they're trying to figure out which peg you fit in. Yeah. And if they can't understand the value yet. Yeah. Right. And that's where, like, if you wear expensive watches, they know exactly luxury. Oh, I wear this, I show it around. Look what I'm wearing. That's why they spend extra money on that. So much, because they already know which peg to fit.
So much of the consumer buying habits too are about things that are very tangible and visible, right? Because we know it's very
visible.
There's two Philippines, right? There's that elite, or people with money, whether they're overseas sending money home, or people have access and people who don't. So when you wear a watch, when you drive a car, when you live in a certain neighborhood, but with you, what you're doing, it's a lot more subtle. So there's probably a lot more education, reinforcement, breaking things down very simply of where the value is. But we talked about in the Philippines and Manila, how it's like the Wild West. And like you mentioned, everything is new and opening, and you can be first at something, which is absolutely incredible. Yeah. You're never going to be first at anything in the States or Canada. So talk a little about unbelievable opportunities.
The way I see it is that where the Philippines is like, it's the years are getting shorter and shorter, but it's like a time machine that we can go 10 years back. Yeah. So things that were really big in the States 10 years ago, we can bring it here, and we can actually launch it as something quote unquote brand new. Like I said, that those years are getting tighter and tighter. So I think for a while it was 10 years, but I think now it's probably at the 5 years difference, right? So I think that's the beauty of it, of when you come here, you can actually launch something, because a lot of stuff is still new. Like the internet is so slow, right? And it's getting better, right? But now that people can now start bringing in apps, like, like I think 5 years ago, there's no way you could have thought of bringing a live streaming app in the Philippines. Everyone will say, you're nuts even trying to attempt that, because the internet is so slow, the bandwidth, you're never going to it's going to be frozen every single second. But now look at this amazing app called Kumu that's live streaming, that's killing the market. Like they're taking over. They're the Filipino unicorn, and they're a live streaming platform. But yet, do that 5 years ago, there's no way. So, but that live streaming was already big in the States on certain platforms, because we had the internet. So that's when I say there's a 5 year or 10 year, it's not because we're better or more advanced, more better than the Philippines. It's not that. It's just the technology is now starting to catch up here. Yeah, so that's allowing us to bring in new things coming in, right? So that's the beauty here, and I think that's where the energy comes from, is people are bringing in stuff to the market. Like that's why I didn't bring in Mankind. I evolved it to what it is now at the Refine, because Mankind is exactly what a barbershop here is, the new ones with the bars and all that stuff. It's already been done. But if I did this 4 or 5 years ago when I was doing Mankind and said, I wish somebody did tell me, it's like, hey, go to the Philippines. I would have really raked it in.
Yeah.
Because what we did in Mankind at the time was revolutionary in that market. But there's no way we're going to think about taking that to Philippines. Again, I only knew Philippines as a party place. I wish I didn't. That's probably one of my regrets. It would have been amazing to know that, wow, I could open up Mankind in Toronto and European branch and do extremely well, and then eventually expand that.
Well,
So
no one knew.
that's,
No one knew
I think that's
time,
where.
right? I mean, we all say
Well,
that
that's the time machine.
time, and if we knew then what we know now. But talk about a little on the macro level, the Philippines. Like, there's a lot of spending power there. People don't realize that it's opening up to foreign business. Talk a little the BPO industry. People.
Well, the BPO the BPO is huge, right? I think where we took over, especially, I'll talk about call centers in particular. The reason why we took it away from India, which India for a while was the number one call center country in the world. Like every company that needed a call center will go to India because of the cost. The labor cost was so cheap. The problem is English wasn't the first word, like it wasn't the first language for them, right? So it was difficult to train people to speak English. But in the Philippines, English is like a second language to us in a lot of places, right? And especially in school, depending on what school you went to, everyone spoke English. If you go to,
you're absolutely right, but it's not only the English. I think it's the cultural.
That's what I was going to get to. The second part was the friendliness and the customer service, like the genuine friendliness of the voice and how are you? Just the way if you train them well enough, they actually took over. And that's what's happening to call centers. Everyone's coming here is because there's one, labor salary super cheap. 2, so many people need jobs. And 3, all you have to do is train them. They already have it innate in them to do good customer service. That's why at the Refine, our customer service is amazing because we spent a lot of time training them. While other places didn't train them, we just trained them. They already had it in them. But that's why I think call centers and BPOs, again, it comes down to salaries and amount of people that want work and hard working.
And also a very young population in the Philippines, because the call centers, the BPO, they're working overnight a lot of times, and something like 80% of the Philippines is under 30 years old, or so whatever the stat is. So it's a young person's game. So you guys have that going for you too. Yeah. Interesting.
That's the third thing is the age of the workforce is super, super young. And right there is the trifecta. So that's why, and I think now even post-coronavirus, BPOs and call centers are going to explode. Because those companies in the States and Europe that, had to downsize and, oh man, we got to save costs. We can't save it here. What they're going to do is we're going to move it to the Philippines. And that's what's going to happen. I think places like Japan is going to do the same thing. They're going to look at the Philippines as cost savings, and it's going to be big. Like the main places, like again, India is one of them. Mexico is going to be another place. I think Vietnam is going to be, and Philippines are going to be ones that are going to explode in that industry post coronavirus because of the cheap labor that's going to happen and the amount of people that's looking for work. So I think this can be a game changer. And I mean, we're already heading that direction.
Absolutely.
And the coronavirus, all it did was magnifying the flaws of your company. So if you're able to adapt to it, you'll be fine. And if you can't, you're not going to be fine.
Interesting. And you have a new project going on because, of course, you don't have enough jobs and enough roles, right? But you have a really brilliant new project going on, a new podcast called All In. So if you want, tell us a little about that. I'm pretty excited about All In. Yeah. What up?
I think my hair's longer than yours now.
Yeah, I know, she cut her hair. Look at Bye. With All In, man, it's a passion project. I mean, I said to myself, I think a year ago that because I was getting brought to me a bunch of projects. I think I had 12 projects that was brought to me to work on and partner up with or be part of it some way or another as a consultant, whatever. And I said to myself, I need to narrow it down. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So I brought it down to, I said, I'm going to do 3 max, right? I'm not going to go past 3. That's all I can give time for. And again, the roles and responsibilities I have as, at the Refine and now Maven, I really have to like make sure that I'm invest a lot of time in it because I'm responsible for that.
Yeah.
But the 4th one is I broke my rule, but I also justified it because it's a passion project. It's a all-in podcast. It obviously stands for going all in life. And if you listen to the first episode, it basically tells my story living on the couch and going all in life and realizing I had to make a change. I had to become the author of my book and write my own chapters, learn from what I did and then move forward. And that's what I'm doing. So the reason why it's a passion project is because I'm able to talk to other people that went all in. And when I say all in, and not, we will have guests that are entrepreneurs and business guys. It's going to happen. But we will have, and I actually had one, I think I just interviewed 2 days ago, that it's not about just that. It's about people that made a change in their life and says, you know what? I need to change. I got to do something different. This person can still be whatever. They can still work a 9 to 5, but now they're happy and they found a purpose. They found their purpose in their life. So this is what this platform is for me to get inspired. So it's very selfish. I want to be inspired by talking to these people and after the interview, be ready, fueled to tackle the day because I'm so inspired for what I just heard. But it's meant for, listening, hopefully bring that message out to a listener that hears it and says, man, I didn't know they were going through that much problems. I'm going through that much problems, but I'm about to quit. But this person didn't quit. And then they didn't quit. Or, oh man, I never knew who got divorced. And then he had to get rid of his place and he lived on a couch with one suitcase with 2, kids, all that stuff. But look at where he is now. So hopefully that my life, I was able to tell the story and inspire somebody not to quit. And if I can, it's such a cliche, but if I can change one person's life, that's all that matters to me. So again, going back to, I want everyone to win. So if we can do this platform and all in and spread that message, then that's my passion. And that's my thing that I don't do, has nothing to do with money, revenue, nothing. Yes, it's brought to you by the Refine because that's where it was born from. The Refine, that's where I heard the stories. Like not all the members are CEOs and directors of their company. Some of them are coming out straight, like brand new. They're an employee at their, moving up in their company and they want, to sit down and talk and they heard my story or heard their story. Yeah. That's it all came from there. So somebody said, wow, man, if only you just recorded these conversations at the Refine, you would have an amazing podcast. I'm like, oh,
light bulb.
Person even said, you need to, that was the light bulb. So that's what happened there. And then also somebody says, all you do is get your podcast turn into words, text, turn into text. And each chapter is a story of a member. Because so far, except one, the one that we just launched today, all of them are members. So I'm actually just having conversations with members and telling me their story and letting other people find out what their story is. So the majority of our guests will be members because there's so much amazing stories. And the more members we get, the more interviews I'll do. And this podcast now is going to be inside the Refine, right? So it's going to be done there. It just happened to be quarantine. This is a quarantine edition, is at the office, but it's going to be there. And it's going to be so impromptu that I'm going to be like, man, we have I'll meet somebody new and we'll have the comment because wait, stop what you're talking about. Go into the room right now. Let's record this. Perfect. And that's how impromptu I want the all in because it's that inspiration and it's going to be from the Refine. And for me, that's why it's brought to you. It's not just like, hey, let's stick our logo, the Refine in there. There's no other logo, no other company can take over that sponsorship of the all in because it's only the Refine that I know of that people have gone all in. like I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've been inspired by it, right? Even for you, your story is amazing. Like I have to interview next because I didn't know you were that black guy in that picture.
Oh, bro, there's a lot. The backstory is pretty crazy. There's a lot.
Exactly. You lived in a cave and like that, but you went all in, man. And I know that. I sense that from the day I met you, and I met you through Amy.
Yep.
I said, there's something up with this guy. Like, there's something. He went. I can tell he went all in. I just don't know why. Like, I don't know what his story is yet.
Yeah.
And now I know it is, right? So that. But it was because when you joined the Refine, we got to talk more. So that's why the Refine is the sponsor of the show. But it's because of where it all came from. So that's really the gist of All In.
And it's fascinating. Yeah. You told me that idea for the podcast. I was like, absolutely perfect framework for the podcast, perfect name, perfect host. And when you talk about the Refined, brought to you by the Refined, it's basically All In is like an extension of the mission or the values, and that's why it's a perfect fit. So
exactly. Yeah, the podcast is actually born out of the value proposition, which is authentic connections. We're going to connect, that me and the person I'm interviewing, but the listener is now going to connect with that person, and something's going to happen that they heard something. It's like, you know what? This is going to impact my life, and boom. Now we created that authentic connection. So that's what we're planning to do. And everything that we're doing, it has to fall off that value proposition. And I feel like that's our pivot, that we did the 2-year data testing, I like to call it. And we really figured out who our member is. And now we know the personality and the persona and what makes them tick and why it's going to make them join. Are we going to get every single person? No, but people are going to resonate to the message we're bringing, and already know what differs us from everywhere else. Yeah. And then it's going to be hard to compare us to anywhere else. If anything, everyone's going to be trying to compare them to us the next time around. Right. So again, this is my passion project, man. I love interviewing people, man. I love it.
And what's fascinating is, everyone these days is in marketing and advertising and sales and life, they're playing the highlight reel, right? They're playing the perfect facade of, renting the private jet and talking about how they're making $1 million a month. And this is how I look perfect. This is how my life is perfect. Let me sell you a pill to make you perfect. So really the frontiers now are authenticity. We're coming back to that, and you're all about that, about authentic connections, about being genuine. And so it's not just sitting down with people and saying, everything's always perfect, everything's always rosy, it always works out well. You're saying, let's go through the dirt, let's crawl through the dirt and the grime that it took for you to get here in your life and your work. And that is really fascinating to people because, like you said, there's some middle-class kid in Manila who maybe hopes to be the first one in his family to buy a house or go to college. And you're giving him hopes, really, not to be cliche, but you're giving him dreams that he could access that, because he's going, wow, like one thing I'm familiar with, struggle. And that's a part of all the backstories of these other entrepreneurs and people who have made it. So you're going to do some great stuff with that, brother. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I've been asked to, me seeing the Refine and talking to a lot of people have asked me to be an entrepreneur coach. Like, why don't you go to that world? And I thought it more and more, and I'll be honest with you, talking about finances and financials and stuff, I never felt comfortable accepting money from somebody to tell them to be their entrepreneurial coach.
Yeah.
But with the All In, I realized that this is my way to do the entrepreneurial coaching without charging any money at all. It's free. Here it is. Here's your information. Take it as you want. And that's it. I mean, I get to do what I love to do, be inspired. But if somebody's inspired and I coach somebody unintentionally in business, then that's amazing. Because for me, I'm still making mistakes. Like, I still make mistakes. I should have done this. I could have done that better. Being a CEO for the first time, obviously I've dropped the ball and certain things, and I'm okay with that. But I always think that's what makes me a good entrepreneurial coach, because I'm able to tell you I've done that mistake.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. But I never wanted, I never wanted to take money for it. There's some, even though, we watch our money and we have to pay our bills, and I think that's obviously important. And that extra money will allow me to go see my kids in Toronto without worrying about, can I afford that plane ticket? But I also think that what's more important is to help that person than to get on that plane. I eventually will get on that plane without worrying about where that money's coming from. It will happen. But until then, it's out for free, man. Like, take it, come to the Refine, talk to me in person. It doesn't cost anything. And I think that's our responsibility to spread that out, right? It needs to be spread out. It needs to be informed and help. Man, if somebody 5-6 years from now says, man, it's because of you, my life from here has went to here, I'm done. I'm like, I've done it. Yes. It's like I've accomplished it.
Each one teach one, right? And you're teaching a lot and doing some amazing stuff. How do people, and I've taken so much of your time, dude, super appreciate.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Totally good.
How do people get in touch with you if they want to find out more about the Refine, connect with you, or of course the All In podcast? Give us some contact details.
I guess they can go all on check out the podcast is one thing. Any of the social media, so you can obviously find me on Facebook, but in Instagram, the Refine Guy _PH is where you can find me, and you can direct message me anytime you want to. If you find me on Facebook, send me a message. I might not accept you as friend because I'm so cautious about who I accept because I don't know. I get so much spam sometimes too, so I apologize if somebody's trying to add me. I just don't do it. But when it comes to Instagram, man, if you want to follow me, but if you want to send direct message, is probably the best way to do it. Okay. Or call the Refine, man. Just message the Refine and say, hey, I want to talk to Noel, and they'll get it. That message will get to me right away. RC is fantastic in doing that, saying, hey, you have a message. So that's probably the best way to reach me, or just follow me on Instagram. Is probably, I'm doing more Instagram stuff. I hate that stuff. I'll be honest, I'm not comfortable doing that stuff. I'm not a millennial, so.
Of course, All In is on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts, right?
Podcast, yeah. So, and then we have a Facebook page, All In, on podcast. So yeah, I'm easy to find. I think you Googled my name and it popped up. So somebody told me that they Googled my name for an interview and they knew everything about me. I'm like, how the hell did you get that? And then it's like, well, you just have to Google it. I know what campaigns you worked on in advertising. I'm like, oh man, those things are still there. So yeah,
it's all
man,
out there,
super
brother.
easy.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, man. This was a blast. I can't wait to get back there, hopefully sooner than later, so we could sit down face to face and collab some more. But Noel, brother, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, man. And you know what? I'll just say, I'm not used to seeing you not wearing a basketball jersey. This is like another collar shirt. It's like crazy. Sleeves. It's always but yet you never wore that. Maybe I forgot a Raptors jersey. I don't know why. I've never seen you wear. You have one, but you've never wore the Raptors.
I wore it won there. I wore it.
Won the championship.
It's a Vince Carter one, and I did wear it to the Refine a couple times, but you just happened to not be there. But I was representing.
Okay, good. I want to make sure that you wear that. But yeah, I love that you were in college, but I missed the basketball jerseys.
Next time, brother. We'll sit down again when I'm in the Philippines, huh?
All right, brother.
All right. Have a great one. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, brother. Bye.
Yep. Take care, man.